Welcome to the One Advantage podcast, exploring the intersections of pure power, culture, and agility. Your hosts, Jason Richmond, Mike Richardson, and Leo Bottary, co-founders of the One Advantage community of practice and advantage peer groups. For more information, please visit us at idealoutcomesinc.com.
Hey everybody, here we are once again for another episode of the One Advantage podcast. And once again, it looks like we have just got a whole full house here. I'm just not sure anymore how that happens. We got Jason Richmond, we got Leo Bottary, and we got Mike Richardson here, everybody, freshly with a brand new ebook that just got released. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. We are here to do a fantastic episode all around VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, adaptability, resilience, and agility. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, as ever, let's find out where everybody's been. Leo, you are here once again. It's awesome. Thanks for being here. What have you been up to?
Great to be here as well. I was in Calgary earlier this week.
Oh.
And always love visiting Calgary, love visiting Canada. So really enjoyed that quite a bit. And then I will be in Denver all week next week. And so really looking forward to that as well. I fly there Monday, come back on Friday night, and just a packed week. So really excited about that. Busy every day. Except on Wednesday afternoon, we'll be going to the Colorado Rockies game with my daughter and son-in-law and all of that. So be a fun time.
One of the best stadiums in the country.
It really is.
Unfortunately, I think you, Jason, are not in Denver next week, right? You're out here next week, aren't you? So you guys will miss each other like ships in the night.
Yeah, and I've been in the lovely state of Colorado all week this week, working the home base, preparing for next week, getting ready for a week in Orange County in Southern California, your guys' neck of the woods, if you will. So I have a full week calendar dealing with a lot of the topics we're talking about today. Yeah. You know, changing the way we do things, continuous improvement, the speed and magnitude of change. I mean, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, and are we going to have a chance for a glass of wine then, Jason, when you're out
I think
here?
we probably will. Yeah, we'll figure that out for sure.
Can we sneak that in? We're about 100 miles from each other, but yeah, that 100 miles would be worth it, Jason, just to have one glass of wine with you.
All right.
Excellent. Well, great, everybody. Look, I've been looking forward to this one, not least of all because, you know, this is my wheelhouse. It's Jason's wheelhouse. It's Leo's as well, of course. Adaptability achieves enduring excellence. Resilience and adaptability are necessary to succeed in our world filled with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. There's that VUCA thing, everybody. Successful teams don't just weather the storm of extreme situations, but they pivot to meet the immediate challenge and use the opportunity to improve on what they'd previously been doing. Wow, that's right down our street. The ebook that we just published, everybody, that we will put the link in the show notes. It's available as a Kindle version ebook. Is all about this. It's the One Advantage, how to introduce into your organization a peer-powered culture of agility. So, Jason, let's start with you. As you think about this whole thing, adaptability, resilience, VUCA, how do you think about this? Tell us more.
Well, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, Mike and Leo, and, you know, if you really peel back the onion, it's the exact reason why the One Advantage came to be. Yeah. Right? We started working together and partnering and developed the One Advantage to tackle exactly what we're talking about today. And you know, in your opening there, you talked about improving on what organizations have been previously doing. And at the core, that's what the One Advantage does. That's what the One Advantage ebook is introducing, is the ability to not rock your world or necessarily do everything different, but to adapt and improve on what you are previously doing. And it stuck with me. And it really, in the essence, is why we exist, why the One Advantage exists today.
Yeah, and everybody, the one advantage, remember, is a peer-powered culture of agility. The real key word there is culture. How do you have a culture of agility? How do you have a peer-powered culture? Culture, everybody, to have that resilience, to have that adaptability, to have that agility, to not only weather the storms, but to use every stress test to ratchet up to the next level and break through and take the game to an all new level. Leo, how do you think about all of this?
Well, I think that, of course, my inclination is to stress the peer-powered part,
Exactly.
as you know, when it comes to culture, largely because leaders can do a lot to set the tone for culture, but that's it. That's all they can do. The culture is really about, everyone in it, not just what's top down, but what runs across. Mm-hmm. And when we think about how we engage our peers in the workplace, they help us do two things to keep us agile. One, they help us look in the mirror. They help us see ourselves more clearly. But I think also more importantly, because you're dealing with peers that have a lot of diverse perspectives and experiences, that's your way to look out the window. That's your way to see what's happening, what's coming, how to think about things that aren't just rooted in one way of seeing or looking at the world. And with things changing as quickly as they do, having really strong, trusting relationships with peers who are committed to that level of agility, Mike, that you talk about so much, I think is just so crucial to any culture.
And I've always loved, Leo, your kind of description of the sort of horizontals and the verticals. And you sort of, I think, talk about the scaffolding that then becomes, and the horizontals make the verticals stronger. Just touch upon that again, because I think that is such a simple and powerful analogy that you use.
Yeah, I think it's just easy for people to look at their organizations in terms of their CEOs, their executive VPs, senior VPs, directors, managers, the whole thing there. And the reality, though, of course, is while that vertical structure can be important, what runs horizontally gives that vertical structure its integrity. People have to work together with one another. It helps break down silos. It helps do a lot of things to really keep an organization highly functioning. So I think it's essential. Yeah.
And of course, everybody, and Jason, haven't we? We've talked about cross-functional teamwork forever. We've talked about interdepartmental collaboration and coordination and communication forever. So we're not just talking about that again, everybody, at like a back to basics level. What we're talking about here is what Leo calls a peer advantage. How can you have those horizontals strengthening your verticals in this sort of scaffolding analogy? How can you have that clicking to a level above what average companies can do, so that it becomes an advantage, a peer advantage that you're enjoying in the minority compared to those who aren't in the majority? They're still talking about interdepartmental, cross-functional, all this kind of stuff. But that's just a qualifier these days. It's not a differentiator. Jason, as you think about all of that, what would you add?
We're seeing it more and more, and especially coming out of the pandemic, and now we're past the first quarter of the year. We're seeing more of this cross-functional integration in all of our client engagements, right? We're doing less and less with siloed groups, and we're doing a lot more engagement from cross-functionally, and not just cross-functionally from a job role or a department, but intersections of regions, cultures, even on a global basis. So instead of cohorts or learnings or engagements, within a department or within a team, now it's on a global basis where we're getting representation of different regions, into our engagements, delivered on a virtual platform. And it's fundamentally changed. You talk about VUCA and driving change and all these things. It's fundamentally changed the way organizations are developing their people, the way they're learning, the consistency they're building across their leadership ranks and their culture, because of this integration cross-functionally.
Everybody, I realized I got so excited about talking about having a glass of wine with Jason that I forgot to mention that I did get to have a glass of wine with Leo last week or the week before, because I was invited to be the keynote speaker at the San Diego all-member meeting of REF, formerly Renaissance Executive Forums, and Leo was kind enough to go out of his way to come and be in the room with over 100 people. And Leo, I spoke about what I called a sort of 5-level reset, everybody. The first 3 levels of which are all about a peer-powered culture of agility. How do you develop that peer advantage, level 1? How do you develop that cultural advantage, level 2? How do you develop that agility advantage, level 3? And we went all the way up to level 5, everybody, that I called an intelligence advantage, because I started talking about the fact that here we are, everybody's getting the big buzz going on about Chat GPT and all the other kinds of artificial intelligence that are starting to show up. Human intelligence is still going to be crucial, the kinds of things we've been talking about here. And the coming together of both of those things, human intelligence and artificial intelligence, we call collective intelligence. And so really, this is going to become a battleground, everybody, of who can develop an intelligence advantage by the way that they bring together the collective intelligence of humans and computers to play the game at an all new level above, to have the agility you need in a VUCA world. Not least of all, it was amazing, wasn't it, Leo? How many people were just like scratching their heads at that session we were at, frankly, relatively speaking, completely oblivious to the VUCA that artificial intelligence is going to introduce into our world, probably bigger, faster, and sooner than we think. What would you say about all of that, Leo?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, excellent keynote. And if you're out there listening to this podcast, and you want a keynoter on a topic that is on top of mind with everybody right now, you need to give Mike a call, because that was really well done.
Thank you.
It was excellent. But I think it shined a light on the fact of we have to be very intentional about how we're going to address the future. We can't wait for it to come upon us, because it will wash over us in a way that the speed of change, the rate of change, and what's going to happen, in the next 6 months to a year, 5 years, is going to knock the socks off of what people think they've experienced with change in the past. I mean, it's going to be that much faster and that much more impactful. So that's going to require, I think, a hyper level of communication among people in a company. So, Mike, when you talk about the fact that this has got to be beyond the basics, this is next level. This isn't just about knowing what each other does and knowing who to ask for help about what, which in most organizations, they have a hard enough time doing that. I'm talking about how do we really get a sense of ourselves, our strengths, and what's going on in the world, and how do we become intentional, and how do we I think define what we expect of ourselves and others in terms of how we leverage the change in the new world.
Yeah, get set, everybody. Buckle up. What we're really trying to say to you here is there's going to be a massive reset. And whatever you thought was fast, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever you thought was fast is going to get redefined as slow. Whatever you thought was winning in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years is going to get redefined as losing. And whatever level of teamwork or cultural communication you thought you were at, you thought you were at level 5, Max Hughes, Jim Collins, level 5 leadership, whatever it is, whatever you think level 5 is, it's going to get reset to level 0. And those are just qualifiers. They're not differentiators. They're not winning strategies. That's going to keep you playing in the minor leagues, not the major leagues. What fuel would you add on all of that fire, Jason?
Leo hit upon something. To being strategic with this and don't let it. I think, especially artificial into AI, it's coming into the world very, very quickly, and it's a lot more than just Chat GPT. Yeah. And being strategic and understanding how to use it to your advantage. So I like to compare it. It's an example and an analogy, right? I mean, look at self-driving cars. What manufacturer now doesn't have a self-driving component? Now, if I'm driving through the Badlands or driving through Montana and can see 50 miles, I'm pretty comfortable there, right? If I'm driving on Interstate 70 through the Rocky Mountains, I'm not going there.
I'm keeping one hand on the wheel.
Yeah. And in my world, and this isn't a new model, but from a learning and development model, the 70-20-10 model, where organizations today has really revamped this initiative where companies are expecting leadership development, individual contributor development, even executive development. 70% of it's learned on the job. And as AI gets integrated into our daily activities, the amount of learning that's going to happen is going to be huge, right? The 20% of that is your self-learning. You're responsible, with your mentor or go out and do self-development, right? 10% of people's learning and development and education now is being relied on from outside sources.
Yeah.
Right. So AI integrating inside the organization as a learning tool is going to change learning and development strategy like we've never seen before.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it, Leo? When I was doing that keynote last week, I asked for a show of hands, as I got started up. I said, okay, who's played with ChatGPT? Most hands went up in the room. And then I asked, okay, ChatGPT is just one kind of artificial intelligence application. Who's using some other kind of artificial intelligence application in their business? There were maybe 6 hands left up in the room out of 100 and something people. And then I asked people, I said, oh, by the way, it's called ChatGPT. Who in the room knows what GPT stands for? There wasn't one hand in the room apart from Leo's. Leo's hand was still up, right? There wasn't one other hand in the room. They've all been playing with this thing, but they have no idea what GPT stands for. It stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So, yeah, playing with it is one thing, but really understanding it, really getting our heads into it, and really getting out ahead everybody of how can I begin to apply some artificial intelligence technology to my business. If you fall behind that curve, you're going to regret it. What would you say, Leo, on top of all of that?
I think that maybe my hand was stuck in the air, possibly. I'm not sure that I knew what that was either. But I appreciate the whatever benefit of the doubt I was given there. No, I mean, you've really touched on it. I mean, we have got to figure out how what's out there can apply.
Yeah.
And not just what's out there right now, but where things are going. I think we've got to get a sense of where things are headed directionally and what's going to be available to us. And by the way, there's an aspect of this, not only how we can use it positively, but how because quite frankly, there are people that are going to be using it and have real nefarious motives and all that. And we have to understand where those things are going to come from, especially if they can threaten our business in any way. So I think understanding all of that becomes really important.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I had one when we did the breakouts, I was wandering around the different breakouts, and I had one audience member sort of say, well, hang on a minute, Mike. What you're telling me is that this is all going to shape up in the next year, 3, 5, 7 years. How on earth am I supposed to be able to predict that future 7 years out? I clearly can't, and therefore there's nothing really that I can do. I can't put a strategic plan together for those 7 years because I can't predict where things are going to end up, and therefore, there's nothing I can do. And I turned to him and I said, that's exactly the point. Being agile is not about predicting the future. How could you possibly predict the future? You couldn't possibly, 30 years ago, you couldn't possibly have predicted the future of the internet in 30 years' time. So being agile, everybody, is not about predicting the future. It's about being ready for a range of futures. Imagine 30 years ago when the internet was emerging, that you decided to sort of sit on your hands because I can't predict the future. There's nothing I can do about the future, and therefore I'm going to almost ignore it. You didn't do that, number one, and number two, you couldn't possibly do that. It's the same again, everybody. It's like the beginning of the internet. Many pundits say that this wave of change that's going to come at you again, the tsunami of change that's going to come at you again out of AI is similar to what it was like 30 years ago. Do you remember when we first started getting into the internet and we thought it was just going to be a place where I could put up a website that was kind of a digital replacement for my brochure? That's all we thought it was. And 30 years later, look at us now. It's just amazing. Jason,
well,
you get to walk the hallways, as does Leo. You get to walk the hallways of a lot of organizations.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see people starting to do right to be ready for a range of futures? And what are some of the things that you see them continuing to do wrong to be ready for a range of futures?
Something might start, a big trend, something I've seen, an initiative in all organizations that I've been working with, Mike, has been this higher level of collaboration.
Yeah.
I mean, we are seeing it daily in organizations, not just by the way they've restructured their offices and as people are coming back to work in their different work structures. We've talked about all that on podcasts in the past, but truly driving collaboration groups, teams, peer groups to forecast or to plan or to identify problems or solve problems. We are seeing that more than I've ever seen it in 20 years. The level of collaboration within organizations I've seen is a big increase. And, part of VUCA is complexity, right?
Yeah.
And complexity is all about managing relationships between different factors. Mike, you mentioned earlier, collective intelligence versus artificial intelligence. I just published a blog about collective intelligence will never be truly replaced by artificial intelligence, but there's a relationship there now.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And the relationship between those two levels of intelligence is creating a higher level of collaboration within organizations.
Yeah.
And part of overcoming this VUCA issue is dealing with that complexity that's going to enter every company.
Yeah, because you're never not going to need the human intelligence piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
The more that artificial intelligence comes on stream, it's actually going to be the exact opposite. The more that you need the human intelligence to be going to the next level, so that the collective intelligence of both is breaking through. By the way, everybody, the domain of research for collective intelligence runs as broad and as deep and as rich as the domain of research for artificial intelligence. It is a whole domain all of its own. And it's all about how do you get human intelligence and artificial intelligence to come together to achieve more than either could achieve alone. And that's the key. So, and I think, Jason, really, you could frame it this way, couldn't you? That this added degree of collaboration that we're seeing on a bigger scope and scale than ever before really is a way for organizations to take their intelligence advantage to a next level. I've got all of this brain power, I've got all of this horsepower. Yep. How do I get it to click and use it to my advantage more than ever before? What, Leo, as you travel around as much as you do, and you interact with so many CEOs and executives of diverse industries and businesses and shapes and sizes globally, what do you see and hear of people beginning to do things right versus continuing to do things wrong?
I think two things. One is all of the stuff we've been talking about with adaptability, really involves us building muscles around two things. One, experimentation. We have to learn to experiment. We need to try things, learn, try things again, learn. But then among our peers, it's now try things, learn, communicate what we've learned, share what we've learned, and drive up that learning curve for everybody. And that's what's going to keep us so I would encourage, for example, if you've got a ChatGPT AI, app on your phone, or if you don't have one, get one and start playing with it, start experimenting with it. By the way, one of the breakouts, as you recall, after your keynote, Mike, was we were all supposed to get together and talk about some questions related to your keynote presentation. So we had an hour to do that. So I'm sitting there with all these folks, right? There's like 10 of us. I'm like, screw that. Why don't I just put the questions into ChatGPT, my AI, right? It spit out the answer in like about 4 minutes. We said, all right, we're good. We're done. So actually, it was about 30 seconds, I think. And it all just ripped down. All the key points were all made. I said, all right, what else do we want to talk about? And so, but we had some fun with that, but the point, of course, is that, and this is where we learn to ask better questions, because now the more precise the questions, the more targeted we can be about things, the more we can find out. So when you got to your question about how am I supposed to predict the future? Well, on one hand, you have a tool you can ask. You can kind of look at economic trends. You can look at all kinds of things now that allow for a whole different level of understanding about maybe what's next. And it's not going to be, the exact piece, but directionally, it's going to give you some things to think about. It's going to open your eyes to a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, so we've now got ourselves a great new ebook, everybody, that's out there, and we just literally released it in the last few days, frankly, or certainly week or so. And we'll put the link in the show notes. You can get it up there on Amazon as a Kindle version. It's about, I think, 60 pages, everybody. So it's a fairly quick read, and I think it's in 5 chapters, and it really steps through this idea of how do you introduce into your organization this concept of the one advantage, a peer-powered culture of agility. And so the real meat and the sandwich of that book is a chapter devoted to each of those 3 things: peer power, culture, and then agility. And we've even got a nice little cover quote there from Alan Mulally, who used to be the CEO of Ford, and before that, the CEO of Boeing. And in both cases, frankly, what he did was a massive turnaround of peer-powered cultures of agility in both places, because Boeing has been through challenging phases in its history, and we certainly know that Ford has, which is why Alan Mulally got called in there. And in many ways, what he did, and there's a whole chapter in there devoted to this that Alan Mulally himself reviewed and signed off on. In many ways, what he did is really develop a collective intelligence advantage inside of Ford between 2006 and 2014, I think it was, that he was there. So our new ebook is out, everybody. It's a really cool and really quick read. And Jason, what would you say about the work that we did together that produced the ebook?
Well, I think it really is a foundation of transformation. Organizations today, whether they realize it or believe it or not, are in the middle of a transformation period.
Yeah.
And VUCA and outside factors and artificial intelligence and the way we work, all of those things combined are going to transform almost every company we know in some way, shape, or form. And I think it sets a really good foundation for all of that.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and Leo, what would you add?
Just that working on the book created a whole new level of interconnectedness. We understood how the 3 might work together, but then now you dig much deeper, and that's where I think we certainly benefited in terms of advancing the work, and I think the readers will also.
Yeah, the concept, everybody, of course, is a peer-powered culture of agility is your one and only competitive advantage, really, at the end of the day. It's the only thing that has any degree of permanence. Everything else is increasingly temporary, increasingly quickly, probably bigger, faster, and sooner than you think. Maybe even bigger, faster, and sooner than your worst nightmare in this exponential age of change that we're heading into. If you thought that was fast, think again, that was slow. If you thought that was winning, think again, that was losing. And so check it out, everybody, over there at Amazon and as a Kindle ebook. We'll make sure that the link is in the show notes. There we have it. Once again, another full house of a One Advantage podcast on our favorite topic of all time. Adaptability achieves enduring excellence, everybody. Thanks for being here, Leo. Thanks for being here, Jason. Thanks for being here, listeners. We will see and hear you next time.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the One Advantage podcast. If you liked this episode, please consider helping us by rating us wherever you listen, spreading the word, having us as a guest on your podcast or webinar, and mentioning us in social media. Find us at the One Advantage podcast, where you can get more information about us and this episode. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to more great episodes to come.